So the open type today in Nifty Futures was an open drive up and totally opposite to what we saw yesterday. Yesterday was an open drive down and we opened below previous value. So we always emphasize how in market profile we trade value and not price. So if you see what happened yesterday and why our bias was to the downside, because we opened below this value and we drove lower. This was an open drive down where we started with a 25,800 open is equal to high start. And today you can see it is completely opposite. We opened at the base of yesterday's value on the upside. This was on the downside. We probe lower, and today we opened above the value, and the volumes of the first 15 minutes were were almost double the average. So you can see we have clocked 17,859 contracts, whereas the average volumes is 9,000 contracts. So this, even the volumes were confirming that this is a drive up. And when you have a drive up, it gives you certain targets. And what are the targets in market profile? We know these unvisited VPOCs become your objective. And that is the reason we went higher. First, we took out this tail of 25775. That was our first target for the day. And then this 25816 was the second target. So now because we are into this well-balanced value area, we can look to complete the 80% rule to this value area high of 25,860. But the problem here is we have done this extension in the C side, and C side we do not trust. We have played the first part of the C side, and you can see how we have got an RS. This is typical C side behavior, and this will not change. And this is why we need to be aware about this, because it gives us some good trading opportunities, and it also tells us when we need to come out of the positions we are holding. So this POC stalling in the C side and this showing us an RS was very clearly telling us that you need to book most part of your longs and keep your stop loss to cost or that 25760 extension handle level. So one more thing I would want to point here is we got a green LLT here. So many new guys just look at the LLT and they think because it is a green LLT, it has to continue higher, and they get disappointed that it is not going higher. So we always mention that LLT is just one part. You can see this LLT at lows 1504. I mentioned that 25690 was the reference. And as long as we are holding this, we are looking for 25775 and 25816. So it could all likely be this 1504 who got stuck is the one who has come out. The stop loss has got hit. So this is almost 110 points. So this is where you can look at how this RS was actually this short was forced to cover. And that is the reason we have not got any follow-up to this big green LLT. So that is why it is very important to take the LLTs in context with what has happened in the previous bars. And also see what order flow signal is showing you. Because we have got the first IS3 signal in Nifty Futures after the C side was done. So that also is telling you that you need to come out of long positions and wait for a new signal. So that is the reason. Till then, what was happening? Once we tested VWAP, we were not seeing any supply at VWAP. So this supply was not coming in below the VWAP level. That is the reason our trade of that long call was still valid. And as long as this, because it was not just this stuck red, you can see a trifecta of greens over here. And you can see how the futures was defending that. So this volume was driven by initiative buyers, and this was a trap seller who tried to short at open, thinking that because yesterday we were down, today also it could be down. But these greens drove it up and they held the VWAP and then finally forced that stuck seller to come out. So what will be the way forward? VWAP will be the sacrosanct level now, because the open type is a strong one. If the VWAP breaks, then we can look at going and testing this 25690 and making new lows for the day, because that would mean these buyers also have booked profits and they are no longer defending the VWAP of the day. But as long as the VWAP is holding, we want to see a range extension to the upside, which will get out, take this RSPOC out and get us some fresh volumes on the buy side. So that is how we will have to take it. This is a new series, and the volumes will still build in going forward in the first few sessions. And not to forget, we are still not done with the calendar month of February. We still have this week to go, and it is only from the next week, the March series in spot will start. The futures has started from today. So the positions you can expect the volumes to, the rollovers to come in even in the first few sessions. So we will have to take it session by session and see how this plays out. And once we have the spot month completed, we have those POC and the VWAP preferences benchmarked. And then based on that, we can look for the next direction. So for today, we were above all the monthly references. Rollover point was at 25610. The POC, as I mentioned, it was at 25727. So that is where we stalled for a bit in the futures. But once that was taken out, we have gone on to tag this VPOC. But yes, here we have seen a responsive selling tail, so that needs to be taken out. Karthik, we have the speedometer, which is a very good indicator of telling you how the volumes are placed based on what time of day you're looking at. So if the speedometer is between 100 and 150, you know that it is better than average volumes. So that itself is the best indicator. So let's now move on to the Volumex and the Spectrum. So it's a new series. So the Spectrum started with 25,400 being the Gamma 0 level, which was around the previous day's close. But slowly you can see how it shifted to 25,500 first and then 25,600. And the Gamma exposure slowly started to build from long Gamma 25,600 to short Gamma. And that is why now we are above this. And now this will be our support. Volumex, you can see the C was clearly above the put, and this is where it diverged around the C side, just before the C side. So this was also giving us a cue that you are in for a C side extension, and that call which we were holding can give us that target of 320 and 348 which we were looking at. And you can see how after making a high of 349, that call is just stalled. So it is very important to know the objective and to know which TPO you are trading in, and definitely book profits accordingly. There is no point holding on to a position just in the hope that it will continue higher. You have to be aware about what the latest data is showing and accordingly book profits in it. So the Spectrum also, the Volumex also was very clearly telling us that there was the only trade was on the long side in calls. So coming to the Bank Nifty had a subdued start. Nifty was very loud at open and it clearly told us where it was going. But Bank Nifty, what it did yesterday, you can see how we have got this 5-day composite Gaussian curve. So what we saw yesterday was an attempt to move higher, but we left a failed auction. So this failed auction will be that important reference in Bank Nifty futures, which is equivalent to the all-time high we have made in spot. So 61768 was the high in spot, and yesterday's high is exactly there in the futures of March. So this field auction gave us the 180R of 60210. We hit that, but what we have done there is left a responsive buying tail. So you can see you have two tails at extremes and the balance in between. So what does it tell? This prominent POC of 61,500 is like a magnet, and till the time we don't move away from this value, this will act as a magnet. So you will have to look at mean reversion trades. But what we have done today, we are not able to take out this selling tail. So we have got back lower. We have this VWAP where we are right now, and it has made a brief range extension as I speak. So if we extend this and break this POC, then we are looking for a test of this HVN of 61300. This POC is where our rollover point is also 61410. So that will be one important reference. If we test that, we will have to see what the order flow is showing us. Bank Nifty was an open auction in range start and the volumes was just about average. So, and you can see how the volumes have been declining. So this is a classic case of telling us that there is nothing happening. This is just coil mode. 2813, 1306, 1032, 836, 619, 269. So each 15-minute bar has got lower volume than the previous. It is only here where the volumes have increased, and why it has increased because we have made this lower low. We have made an attempt to extend lower and the volumes have increased. We will have to see how this plays out, how this closes. If we are able to leave this RB, then we have a probable failed auction at the lows, but then you will need some good volumes and IB signals at this VWAP reference where the POC of the day is also coinciding. for us to take it ahead and give a test of this failed auction and continue higher. So this is how we are placed. The C side is done what it does, and it has stalled the move which the open gave in the Nifty futures. Bank Nifty is being subdued and it is coiling in previous day's range. So we will have to be patient, and as it is the new series in both, we'll have to wait for the volumes to build up and then accordingly look to get into directional once we get that confirmation in the order flow also. So I'll switch it back to the order flow chart, guys, and we'll let you connect it through the text chat.